Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play Cast. We're here with episode 234, recording on September 7th. You're watching it on the 8th or later, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. We've got bugs that lead to good stuff, cash shop ideas that maybe didn't pan out. Might be a nice way to say it. And of course, as teased last week, our amazing Eternals review, now that our first look is up and we're able to talk about it. So we've got a bunch of games to talk about. Let's introduce the panel to talk about them. It's myself and Mr. Troy Blackburn. How are you, sir?
So fun fact, my water has been off since 7:30 this morning. They're repairing water mains thanks to the flooding due to hurricane rains. So I have not shaved. I had to brush my teeth in a bottle of ice cold water out of the fridge. My little snowflake self is not having a good day.
Well, let's diverge and talk about games for a little while and cheer you up. On the opposite side of the country, begging for some water, actually, engulfed in flame, Mr. Zach Sharps. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I hope that the smell of smoke goes away sometime soon. But, you know, it's just better than, I guess, flooding.
Yeah, the United States has got the confluence of the elements, the elemental powers of earth, fire, air, and water just all over the place right now. Of course, our hearts and thoughts go out with anybody impacted, obviously, in Texas by Harvey, Irma sweeping through the southeast, the wildfires out west, flooding in India. Guys, the world is fucked up. Our hearts are with anybody impacted by these things. Stay safe, stay safe, stay safe. But let's distract you for 45 minutes and get your mind off the serious stuff by talking about some silly-ass games.
Yay!
Troy, you're weird. Oh, and by the way, when we get to the amazing Eternals review, we're gonna have some words. I'm just letting you know now. I sent you messages on Skype about it. We're going to have words. But first, let's start off with Star Wars The Old Republic. You know, usually I find every time we're talking about Star Wars The Old Republic, it generally isn't good. Generally isn't good because SWTOR, to me, Zach, is one of those games that when it's doing things right by its player base, you really don't hear much about it. When things go haywire, that's when SWTOR makes the news. And this is kind of a mix of negative then leading to a positive. So we reported at the time that there was the Crisis on Umbara update coming up. It was delayed a couple of days, and we reported about that on MMOBomb.com due to some bugs they found internally. Then it launched, and there were more. there were more bugs. A lot of bugs. Bugs that players are sitting there saying, what the hell, BioWare, you really can't be releasing updates with these bugs. And I don't want to belabor the point. I'm sure BioWare is well aware of that. I know the player base is aware of that. But I do want to talk about one bug in particular, because, guys, it relates to something that I know we've trashed on this show before.
Oh, my goodness.
I know that friends of mine in the industry that are very, very SWTOR-centric have trashed this thing as well, including Mr. Larry Everett, who has graced MMOBomb's page on a number of different shows and things like that. Very, very SWTOR-centric guy. So here's what happened, and I want to get your take first on it. We're going to skip over the patch had a lot of bugs. It did. It still does to a certain extent. And a lot of credit goes to Larry Everett, the aforementioned Larry Everett from Massively OP here, for kind of giving us, through an article on Massively OP, the community's thoughts on the bug in particular that we're going to talk about. So what happened? Well, due to some bugs, they were testing some things in the back end, and they were gaining a lot of Command XP. And if you don't remember what Command XP is, it's that whole system that BioWare implemented for gear, where you farm up Command XP points by doing things. And then Zach and I had a very famous fight on them nerfing Elite Monster XP, I believe it was CXP at the time. Yeah. So the system is not generally well received, and it hasn't been since it launched. But what happened with one of these bugs is that the CXP for certain activities went through the roof. And we didn't get what we did last time something like this happened, Zach, where BioWare said, we're fixing this. If you're exploiting this, we're going to find you and take this stuff away. We got the exact opposite, didn't we, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, from what I read, it was dailies, and
Yes.
I think that that's probably why, because it's something that they actually intended for you to do to begin with. It just, now it's rewarding a substantial amount of command XP versus what it did before. So for me, that's why I would be okay with this, because it's something that they actually intended for you to do, instead of something in the past with the grinding of elite monsters that they didn't really intend for you to do. So yeah, I'm fully okay with this, and I'm glad that they had a good response, and they seem to be enjoying it as well.
So, Troy, all of a sudden, instead of getting 75 CXP for these dailies, people were clocking in over 1,000. During a double XP event over a weekend, they were getting, obviously, double that. All of a sudden, everybody kind of liked the CXP system. Now,
imagine that. You reward your people by giving them something they feel is worth their time, and oh my god, all of a sudden everybody likes it again.
Right.
Ooh,
And here's from BioWare. Producer Keith Canning said to players that it was fine to go ahead and take advantage of this massive CXP change. Community manager Eric Musco also said that these values would remain, quote, crazy high for the time being. Now, the double XP portion event of this is over, but you're still clocking in at, some people clocking in at over 1,100 command XP. So, a generally unpopular system gets a bug that people are actually able to earn things, and people on the forums, Troy, were talking about how it was great seeing people in all these different zones, and people doing a round, and people doing things again. It felt like an MMO, and it kind of worked out for them to the point that, where do you go from here if you're BioWare? This was kind of telling.
You would think so. You would think the backlash from the initial implementation of this system would have been telling as well. But here we are, and they've managed to spin this in a positive light for them. But let's be honest, the only reason that they've been able to have this thing to spin is because they can't fix it. If they had the ability to fix it, you know they would have. Let's not play games. They would have fixed it instantly. That's the situation here. They've got to wait for a bigger patch to be able to and have some time to implement this fix to get this, because this is not what they want. Players going out and apparently going out and enjoying their game and the rewards given therefore.
And that's the problem that I see for this. I think this is great, right? Okay, we got a bug. We can't really deal with it in an effective manner the way we would like to. So you know what? Go ahead. Enjoy the points. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's playing the game. Whatever. Great. But enjoy these, and they still keep referring to them as crazy high rates, not saying that, hey, this is the way it's going to be from here on out. But this really does, Zach, kind of put BioWare in an odd position, right? Because the question then becomes, all right, previous stuff is staying the same low CXP it was. This daily content and stuff may give you very high amounts of CXP right now, and people are liking that. And maybe we're not so keen on it because people are gaining things faster than we originally intended them to with this system. But the big question becomes, what happens going forward? If you're fine with people taking this amount now, how do you turn around and justify in your next update when content is scaled back again to be more commensurate with what you originally intended? When
Cough,
you're
not fun, cough.
Yeah, when you're actively sitting here saying, yeah, take advantage of it, go ahead. We're going to take it out at some point. Man, there is going to be a downfall here on the other side. Just how bad is the downfall? But I think, what do you do if you're BioWare? Where do you go from here? This has exposed a system that people didn't like, Zach, had huge problems with. Now they're saying, hey, we're kind of into this. We still have to farm, but it's not months and months of farming, and we're okay with that. We feel like we're being rewarded at a level commensurate with how much we're playing the game. But BioWare isn't going to keep it this way.
Yeah, so I like the idea behind the whole command XP idea of being able to get rewarded for pretty much everything that you do. But the problem was the reward wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And so in this case, I think that it shows them that even if they just take 50% of that XP away from the bug, go from 1,000 like 500, I think people would still be pretty happy with it. But what I think that they might do, and this might cause backlash too, is they might just give subscribers a substantial amount of command XP gain and give more incentive to subscribe, even more incentive than there already is. I mean,
now you're thinking like BioWare.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to do here. Is I'm trying to think, okay, what's BioWare realistically going to do? And when it comes down to it, they've always, promoted the subscription system as basically, they haven't said this, but this is their actions. Subscribe to SWTOR if you want to really enjoy it. That's always what we say. That's always what everyone says. And that's why I think that, if anything, they're going to move something like this to the subscription system rather than just completely eliminating, because from the sounds of it, even their devs are really enjoying it. So if their devs are really enjoying it, there's chances are it's probably going to stay, at least in some form or fashion, but probably spread across all Command XP activities. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I see.
Yeah, and here's from Larry Everett's piece over on Massively OP. Again, Larry, a big Star Wars player, giving his perspective here. Quote, "The whole command rank system has been one of the most criticized additions to SWTOR for a very long time. In fact, it was such a bad system that many players, including me being Larry Everett, decided to not participate in it. Unlike some, I didn't quit the game, but I did not actively pursue gaining CXP. There have been fixes to the system, like raid bosses dropping specific pieces of gear instead of players relying on random command crates, but for my raid group, that was far too little too late. They were gone. With this bug, and the subsequent encouragement from the producer of the game himself to take advantage of the bug, I went ahead and joined in the fun. I now have 2 characters well inside Tier 2 command rank. I was late to the party because of my aversion to the command rank in the first place, so those of you that took part before could have earned far more than I did." And he goes on to talk about what, Zach, you kind of brought up, that he used to love running dailies. Because there was a point to them. And this has kind of re-upped his interest in doing dailies and doing that type of thing. Now, here's a quote that I just love. And this is from Canning over at BioWare. "There is a legitimate reason to lower the CXP values as they are out of whack with the rest of the game," which, of course, we knew BioWare was going to say, right? "But there's an even more compelling reason to not lower it all the way back to 75 and to review the values across the board." Troy, I think that's a tremendous way to look at it. Now act on it.
For only $14.99 a month.
Oh, come on.
Yours to have. And actually make our game fun. It's weird. The Command XP, like the idea of the Command XP when it was first announced, was what got me back into SWTOR right before and during that expansion launch. The Command XP, what it ended up being, is what made me quit and uninstall that game a month later because it was so terribly implemented. And then, like, the things I wanted to skip, like raiding, I just wanted to do whatever I wanted to do to get that in-game grind and that gear. And then all of a sudden, they start putting them back on, like, raid bosses and stuff. And I'm like, that defeats the whole purpose of the system for a guy like me who was trying to skip that part. And so, the thing that I was most excited for, do whatever you want, and you're getting the same stuff as everybody else, was instantly, forget this, I don't even want to play this game anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what BioWare does from here, Zach. I like the idea of, hey, we now have a really compelling reason that we might want to look at these values across the board and make some changes, but we also have reasons internally that we can't let them be this high forever, so take advantage of it while it lasts. So if you're looking to jump in and farm some Command XP, now is the time to do it. Before stuff changes. Speaking of spending money, Troy and Zach, one of the games you guys dabble in, I dabbled in it initially. It's probably one of the better MOBAs for me as far as the way I play. Paragon by Epic Games. Now, I think this is so funny because just a few weeks ago, Zach, we talked about Fortnite and monetization, right, with the piñatas and all that stuff. And we gave Epic Games credit at that time for doing things with Paragon and some of their other titles in following what the community said and adapting their monetization and game features around what their community said. We gave them that credit and said they'll probably figure it out with Fortnite. They'll probably figure out how to do this the best way possible. We've already seen them do this same type of thing, particularly with Paragon. And then they proved that maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. So what happened, Zach? Paragon issued some packs here. What was the whole deal?
Yeah, so Paragon issued packs, and from the start of the game, they said that the cards would not be monetized and you would just be able to earn them in the game. But they showed up in packs that were monetized, and so that caused a shitstorm because essentially when it comes down to it, they created all these assets that had these cards monetized, and so obviously it was intentional. It's just the backlash. They tried to basically pin it as, oh, apologies, we didn't actually mean this. It was a mistake. Sorry you guys don't like it. We were trying something new. We want more money, please.
But wait, come on, Troy. They were chests in the pack. I mean, it was still RNG, right? You weren't buying the actual cards. We weren't selling actual cards, which we said we wouldn't do. You just have a chance of cards being in these things, right? And some of them were pretty damn expensive, too. They weren't exactly...
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the way cards work in Paragon, those are like the items? So you have to unlock these cards to be able to buy an item in the game. So think of like League of Legends. If you wanted to buy boots in League of Legends when you go to base, you have to first RNG unlock a card to be able to buy those boots while you're in the game. And then they put them in these cash chests after promising that they wouldn't do that. And that's part of the problem. You say, RNG, you're not technically buying. The problem is the players want to be able to use
I'm being
the
very
in-game
facetious
currency to
there.
directly purchase those.
I'm being very facetious there, by the way, for the sake of moving the discussion to get all the details. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, the eye rolling during, but it's RNG, guys. We're not selling the cards. So yeah, they sold chests or packs, like the diamond pack. These ranged anywhere from $20 to $150 USD, by the way. And like the diamond pack gave the players a total of 30 crates and keys, 20 regular and 10 gold. And then 100 chests ranging in quality from bronze to diamond. The rest of the pack was skin variations, mastery tokens. So all in all, okay, fine, pretty good pack. You're putting a lot of stuff in it. Great. But yeah, a lot of it was RNG, which, okay, it's just a bundle of lock boxes instead of a one lockbox roll. I'm getting a bundle of lock boxes. And oh shit, you put cards in it. And
you've got a whole bunch of chances to be disappointed instead of just one.
Exactly.
Although the subreddit, Troy, went nuts.
It actually spilled over into the Smite subreddit as well. That became a big deal over there as well. And there was a lot of crosstalk back and forth. As a matter of fact, what we'll get to here in a moment, I'm sure, is Paragon sort of, kind of taking all that back and sort of trying to spin it back like we're sorry. But once that sort of went down, like the Paragon folks came back to the Smite Reddit and said, thank you for standing up with us, even though this doesn't affect you. And there's posts in the Smite subreddit about, thank you for coming over and saying, hey, this is BS. We don't want this in the gaming community at all. We don't care if it's our game or not. This is crap.
And that gets back to the danger of saying you're not going to sell things and then trying to sell them, which we kind of talked about with Dauntless last week. I personally, Zach, we talked about this before the show. I personally agree with you. I don't care if they have cosmetic armor in Dauntless's cash shop. I just think when you make statements like Epic Games did on we're not going to sell cards in any way, shape, or form, and then they do sell a method that could get you cards, I think making statements like, hey, badass armor, looking at somebody, you're going to know they got it. It just puts you in an unnecessary bind. Not as bad as the bind Cliff Bleszinski put Lawbreakers in by saying some of his comments about the free-to-play business model, but it kind of puts you in a bind. So what happened, though? Epic Games initially said nothing. They were totally silent. They did reply to subreddit within like 24 hours, so it was basically a day. With this reply, hey folks, we hear you and understand why you're upset. Here's what's happening. And they give 2 different points here. I'm going to read you the first one, but then we're going to stop for a second. Number 1, a series of mistakes.
You could say that. Do you even need to finish that quote? A series of mistakes.
A series of mistakes led to packs being sold containing chests with cards. We promised that cards and heroes wouldn't be sold. We're sorry for our mistake. The chests will be removed from the packs ASAP. Anyone who's already purchased them will keep them. A series of mistakes.
A series of mistakes.
A series of mistakes.
Mistake number one, we shouldn't have told you that we weren't going to sell them because we knew we were going to try to at some point.
That's probably the one. And Zach and I, we were talking about this before the show. We were like, okay, wait a minute. A series of mistakes. Let's examine the series of mistakes that has to happen for this. One, the leads in charge of the entire project, whether that be Epic Games, shareholders, whoever, the leadership has to decide, hey, we need to make some more money, or, you know, let's monetize some things, let's put some packs together, go sell something. So they come up with, we're going to sell something else. Let's see if we can get another revenue stream going. Okay, that's not necessarily a mistake. Then the team has to come up with what they want to sell, knowing that the minute you put a card in there, there's going to be a problem. Maybe not remembering that they had said, or somebody else had said, we'll never sell cards, but knowing, because you're a reasonable, intelligent person, the minute you put cards in there, somebody's going to be pissed off.
This is the internet.
Right. You knew that. Then they decide to do that. Then it gets approved. Then it goes to marketing for pricing. Then it goes to the artists and the web designers to create the packs online, get the store ready to take those sales and award those items in-game, get the splash page for all of the art and the list of what's in. This was not a series of mistakes. This followed the typical, hey, let's try to sell something else flow, project diagram of let's start from the top, get it, make it, do it, set everything up to do it. This is not we're working on something in the development environment, Zach, and somebody bumped the live button and shit, something went live that we didn't intend to because we're still testing it. This was a full-blown marketing push from top to bottom, and nobody's blaming them for that, but it kind of feels, and I appreciate Epic Games replying in 24 hours. And, more importantly, listening to the community, which is something we gave Epic Games credit for on Fortnite. What I don't appreciate is that number one point, am I crazy, Zach? It feels disingenuous.
No, you're not crazy. I mean, there's a lot of hardcore Paragon guys that I follow that really love the game and loved it ever since the launch, and they basically said that's been a downward trend with Epic Games and Paragon, not only just because of these particular issues, but also just sort of how they've always constantly redesigned the game, and maybe for the better, for the worse, it depends on what camp you're in. But I remember, Paragon from its infancy to I haven't played the newest patch that they revamped a lot of things, and so I wouldn't know about that. But even when they changed the map design completely, there was a lot of people who didn't like that either. So they've been missing the mark frequently, and this one's the biggest mistake, I think, out of all of them, because it just shows the direction that they kind of want to go in, but they obviously didn't want to really fully announce that they were going in that direction, so that way they had to cop out of, oh, we didn't mean to do that, guys. So, yeah.
And that's the part, Troy, that I feel is disingenuous. I give them total credit for responding as quickly as they did. I give them total credit for responding in the way that they did, actively listening. I mean, within minutes of that post, the page with these packs on it was gone. It 404'd, right then and there. I mean, they acted quickly based on their community's feedback, and we, as gamers, you can't ask for much more than that.
No.
But it does feel a bit disingenuous when you try and sell this as a series of mistakes. Like it's, Lemony Snicket's a series of unfortunate events or something along those lines, Troy. Doesn't it just smack of a little disingenuous?
It does. Like kind of like you said, somebody didn't just accidentally drop a card when they were writing the code into that box that they didn't mean to. I mean, those are intentionally put in there. Here's the problem going forward, right? Like, so far, Epic Games has been really good about, we did something, player feedback, oops, my bad, we'll fix it. What do you guys think? The problem going forward is you're only going to get so many of those.
Yes.
Oops, my bads. And all of a sudden, that's not going to be good enough. Look at Tryon Worlds as a prime example of that. They had goodwill for days built up. They made so many mistakes, but the community at that point was like, hey, no problem. Oops, you're bad. You know, we'll deal with it. Now look at where Tryon Worlds is and just the reputation they've garnered, deserved or not. That's an argument for a whole other day. You could very easily end up like that with too many oops, my bads, especially when they're kind of coming a little bit one after the other, justified or not, in the eyes of the community. So, get your house together. Quit putting things that you promised you wouldn't sell in the lock boxes, and let's get this game where it should be.
Point 2 on the Epic Games statement was, we're already working on a system for purchasing the cards you want with rep, which I think Paragon players have wanted something like that for a long time now, in addition to the random chests that are already available in the game. We expect the system to ship in version 43 on the 19th of September. We'll share details next week. And then to your point, Troy, they close with, we're learning as we go. We're making mistakes, and we're sorry for causing this turmoil. Thanks for sticking with us. We really appreciate all of you. And I think that is aimed directly at the people thinking exactly what you just said.
I do want to mention one thing about the SWTOR story. I completely forgot, and I think all of us did. That the command XP is only available, I think, to only subscribers.
Oh, God, you're right. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so so I have to rephrase what I said and say that they'll probably give the 75 to maybe free players and be nice about it. Like, hey, command XP for everybody. But then give the super enhanced to the premium. But it's BioWare, so probably just not at all.
Yeah, so, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
that's
why I was searching up this entire time. I'm like, wait, I think this was premium only. Wait a second.
We're sorry, viewers. It's been like a year, I think, since most of us have played that game.
So I haven't played it since the launch of the new expansion. So
so one thing I will point out is that on the Paragon subreddit, on this post that Epic Games made, there are a couple people that are chiming in with the same kind of thought that says, hey, I like that you said something. I like what you said. Clearly you heard us. You know, you were worried about us voting with our wallets, that type of deal. But I think this feels a bit false.
I don't know. This is so much different than like if they'd have just tried a new gameplay mechanic or something that anybody didn't like. This was just like you said, there had to have been so much forethought that went into this. This didn't just fall into the game. It's just, it's like there are things that's okay to forgive. And yes, we have to give credit. When they do things wrong, we call them out. When they do things right, we have to give credit. But my God, this just comes across as you were trying to slip one in there and just to see if anybody was going to say anything. And I can't accuse you of that 100%, but man, that's what it looks like from the outside.
Hey, let me ask you this. If they had already implemented another way to get cards, the cards you actually want, like buying them with rep or whatever instead of the crates and stuff, or crafting or something. If they had already implemented that, do you think these packs would have been such a big deal?
As big of a deal? No, they still definitely would have been an issue. I think it would have been something that Epic Games still would have had to address at some point.
Zach?
I think this still would have been a big deal, just because it's the sentiment of you can buy your way to having the best cards rather than actually having to earn them through in-game activities, which is part of the issue that I have with Paragon's card system in general. Is it takes a while to get the best cards, and that's probably an issue that we're going to be discussing with the game that we're going to be reviewing. So it still would have been a big issue.
Yeah, I agree that, you know, it would have had some backlash. I just don't know if it would have had this level of backlash. I don't know.
I don't think it would have spilled into other subreddits like it did.
Oh, yeah.
I think their subreddit probably still would have exploded.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, thumbs up to Epic for the reply being quick. Thumbs up for the action that they're taking. Thumbs up to the community because they all kind of seem to band together to cause the change. I love seeing that type of stuff. The only really thumbs down here that I have is, one, it felt disingenuous calling it a mistake. You clearly knew what you were doing when this all got put together, and I think it didn't even need to be said. You know, if you're just going to apologize, we thought this was going to be okay, you guys didn't like it, we're going to change it. I didn't feel the need for an explanation cop-out on, well, we made mistakes. Just, you didn't like it, we're sorry. Yes, we said this, we thought RNG was going to be fine, our bad, we'll take it out, and let's move on. But Anyway, so that's really the only thumbs down. It does. I still am hopeful now for some things to change in Fortnite along the way. At least Epic Games listens. I think you can say at least that much that you can't say about some other companies. All right, so finally here, before we move on to the bombs, we're going to talk about the amazing Eternals, the hero shooter, card game, board game, dice throwing, craps shooting, quarter pitching. I don't know, they seem to put everything in there, from Digital Extremes, the team behind Warframe, also the part of the team doing Survived By, which we'll be talking about in the coming months as it gears up for some type of release and testing. First off, I want to go to Troy before we start getting into our opinions of the game. Troy, you did the first look, posted it this week. Kind of give everybody an overview of the type of game we're looking at. If you haven't caught the first look or been checking it out, I would encourage you to do so. But Troy, kind of give us a sum up here.
If you're Magic Man, you're probably going to want to stay away from it. There's no tutorial. There's no AI. It's a hero shooter. You can make comparisons to every other hero shooter out there if you want to, and we definitely did throughout the video, whether seriously or sarcastically. It's actually quite a bit of fun. It's very limited as far as the heroes that they call Eternals in the game right now. But the biggest problem for me going in was just a sheer lack of information available in the game right now. But I was having fun, and for me, that's the way I judge games whenever I try to do videos like that. Is like, did I have fun or did I not have fun? This one I have fun. It's still on my computer right now. So, I mean, for me, in my opinion, that's a pretty glowing endorsement as of right now.
I'm going to probably surprise you on this one. I played in, well, I can now speak about it. I played in alpha, so I've been in there for, I guess, a month or so. And yeah, I noticed the same thing right away. There's no tutorials. You get a little video, I think. The first time you boot it up, it was a video, or maybe that was something I clicked on the launcher and got.
There's some kind of video in there, yeah.
And it wasn't much. It was just like a, hey, welcome to Keystone at the time, now Amazing Eternals. And I'm going to surprise you, Troy, as much shit as you talked in the first look video and immediately started with here. I also had fun with this game. I didn't mind that there was no tutorial. I didn't mind that there was no bots. I jumped right into the PvP, felt right at home. And now here's the thing that I will say, though. I probably only felt as home, and maybe this is true for you, too, both of you. You probably only felt as at home in this game playing it as you did because it's so much like other hero shooters. Once you started a match, you didn't feel like you needed a whole tutorial. Everything was where you kind of expected it to be. The game flow, while a little bit different than some other ones out there, generally follows the same capture nodes. You're just kind of doing it in a different order sometimes. So you feel at home because you played other things extremely like it. Zach, what were your initial impressions? We'll go to you first.
Yeah, so mine are going to be probably the most negative here.
That's because you hate cards. You hate cards.
I do. I felt like I was literally playing the earliest renditions of Paladins, but even worse in terms of how slow the game is. I literally felt when I hopped in and was playing the skeleton dude, which I didn't even know that I was picking him because the cards didn't have any information, and you only get to choose between 2 different ones. So I was
when you first start,
or anything like that. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm just picking something random here. So I just picked a card, and it ended up being him. Didn't really like him as a play style, so I was kind of stuck with him. And then I was stuck with the next person who I picked, which I think was the tree guy that you like, Troy. I forget his name.
Yes, Bristle.
Yeah, Bristle.
Love, he's my new bae.
Yeah, then I got the aquatic chick that heals, and every single pick that I did, because I couldn't look at their skills or anything, I didn't like. And so I ran into the issue of I don't even have an Eternal that I like at this point because they didn't give me any real Eternals to choose from other than just like one every like level, I think it was. So they need to really open that up. You need to have at least 5 because everyone's play style is different. You got to be able to offer at least 5 so people have an idea of what they maybe want to play. So later on when you pick, and also give a lot more information, you can actually make an educated guess on what you might enjoy. So that was a big issue for me, and that's why I didn't keep playing, because I had 3 heroes I just did not like playing. But also the card game system, was an issue for me. Because first off, I was like, okay, this card game system, it's not that bad. I looked at the fact that you can order the cards and all that. That's really nice. It's not RNG in that respect. But then I looked at the store and I saw booster packs and immediately was like, are you freaking serious here? They're literally combining the worst parts of the card game elements with the worst parts, I think, of even a hero shooter, of not having a lot of heroes available, which might change over time. The gunplay for Digital Extremes is unacceptable. It just does not feel like a Digital Extremes title like Warframe, where Warframe's super quick. This game to me feels super slow. So I had a hard time really enjoying it in that respect. But the card games, I think for the reason, if they keep the card game element, which some people are fine with it, once this goes mainstream, it's probably going to only garner at max 5,000 concurrent players if it launches the way it is right now. Because people that love to play these titles do not love to play these titles for card games. They love playing them for a little bit of depth within their shooter, but not too much depth to where they're having to deal with two different things and just completely subtracting from their time away from the shooter elements. So I don't know. I give it a thumbs down right now. That's unacceptable. But I'm not writing it off. That's the thing. I'm not writing it off because it's Digital Extremes.
Yeah, and I talked a little bit about sort of the gunplay, and I used the reviewer trope in my video, and I hate it because I didn't catch it until after I'd already sent it to Mike. I called it a level of polish, and I was like, oh my God, did I really just do that? So I know I tried to explain, like give a little more than just say a level of polish and move on, because I've been guilty of that in the past. But it's for me, a lot of the feedback of when you're being attacked and when you're attacking people, the numbers don't show up well. The life bars of your targets are sometimes there, sometimes not there. There are visual indicators that you are getting shot from a direction, but they just, I don't know. I'm always having to like look for them, and they're huge, like across the screen, but they just don't do a good job of making you feel the combat. And we talked about how, the good shooters, they use a combination of visuals and audio in a great way to make you feel the impact of combat. And that's just really missing right now. As far as gameplay in the game, that was my biggest gripe with that. It's just, there's no real feedback. It's a little, to use another reviewer trope, it's a little floaty. And I hate saying that too, but it's the freaking truth.
So here's the thing. I feel like The Amazing Eternals is getting it'll get better pass on so many things because it's Digital Extremes and because of how good Warframe is. I think it would be like if Grinding Gear Games put out another game, and if in alpha and beta there were big concerns with it, you might go, they'll get it figured out. They did Path of Exile. I think that it's getting a lot of that. And even for me, it's getting a certain amount of that too. Like, I'm not going into, as far as personal gripes, I'm not going into the fact that, few heroes, few maps, boring maps in general. Because that's stuff that I feel like they're going to get that, right? I mean, they have to make more maps. And
healing is broken.
Yeah, healing's kind of broken. They have to make more maps, obviously. They have to make them more interesting than this, obviously. They have to make more Eternals, obviously. So yes, I'm not sitting here glossing over those very, very big, very, very valid criticisms. But they are so obvious criticisms that I have to feel like they're going to get that. I mean, even if they weren't Digital Extremes, they would get that.
They have to know. Surely I don't have to tell them this. I mean, because this is like, there it is.
Right. Yeah. I did find it fun. I'm with you on that aspect, Troy.
I did enjoy myself.
Not as tight gunplay as I would like. But again, somebody of my average skill level, very casual hero shooter player. I'm not competing at tournaments or anything like that. Yeah, even at that skill level, it still feels like it needs to be a little tighter. It needs to have the edges of the bolts tightened up there. Let me ask you this, though, Zach. What if I made a game and you had a character and I said that character's got 100 different abilities total, and to give you some customization, you're only allowed to use 10 at a time. So go to a skill tree type thing and pick out the 10 favorite abilities for your favorite character, and that's your character's loadout. I have a feeling that based on other things you play, you would be fine with that type of setup.
It depends how those skills are distributed. Like if there's something that you have to grind a lot for to unlock, that's one issue. But if you have it unlocked from the beginning, I don't see that as an issue whatsoever. Like if I have all those 100 skills available to utilize from the get-go, it's okay because I can, look up online if I want to be super meta and see what skills are the best for this character and build that out. But with this particular game, because it's cards, and you don't get them all from the beginning, and you have to buy booster packs and whatnot to get them, or unlock them through other means, that's where the issue comes in. I
just feel like maybe you're putting a bit too much emphasis on the fact that they look like cards. And I get it. I don't like the RNG type monetization of booster packs in this type of game either. But I didn't feel like, Troy, maybe this is just me. Maybe you're more with Zach on this one. I wasn't necessarily bothered that it was cards. I don't like the way it's being monetized because they're using the card type formula to do it. But I would have no problem, and this is why I was asking you this, Zach, because I would have no problem if they said, Character A has 50 different abilities available to them. You're going to have to play to unlock all of these abilities over a period of time, whether that's farming up currency, gaining levels, whatever progression system you want to put in there. But then once you have all 50 unlocked, you can pick any 10 you want, and you can even, since you can only use 3 or 4 at a time, you can put those 10 in a very specific order, and we'll just cycle through the order. If I took cards totally out of the equation and just put a standard progression system in there, leveling, in-game currency, and just buy the next ability up the chain, I wouldn't have a problem with it. And so, it generally being cards, that's just a cosmetic difference to me. But I feel like you made it cards specifically because you wanted to monetize it like cards. And that's the problem that I have with the cards in Amazing Eternals, Troy.
In game, I like the card system. It's interesting. It's unique. It lets you sort of build your own character. And I like the fact that you can determine what order they come out in. That makes you think about, the game and how the game flow of the game goes. I love that. But outside of that, I have to agree 100%. When you get out of the game and look at this deck, when you go to build a deck and you're in the cash shop and you're trying to look at this deck of cards, you're like, oh, this is why they're cards, because they needed something to monetize. And they were like, oh, let's make the abilities cards. We can charge for those because everybody loves buying cards.
Yeah, and is that it? Is that it with you, Zach? Is it just the whole idea of cards in general really irritates you? Or is it because it's the card monetization system that clearly was the reason to make these cards and not, here's a skill tree, level up, spend points, and then pick 10 abilities, which would have been the same thing. You just wouldn't have been spending cash or have RNG. You got to play to level 30 to get that ability you want, etc. I feel like you'd be more okay with that than, and maybe it's not so much the cards, maybe it's the monetization system by saying it's cards. Zach, what do you feel?
I still wouldn't like it. I mean, it's the same reason why Paragon loses me every once in a while, is just the fact that I don't like having to unlock all those cards, or all those, whatever you want to call them. Like, even in Amazing Eternals, I wouldn't like that because there's so many of them. In Paladins, it's not as overwhelming because you have, I think, 6 in a loadout. And so you don't have that much that you need. And then you have, only a set amount. I think it's like 8 per different ability. So there's not a whole lot of cards there that you have to work with in order to put in your loadout. So it's a little less overwhelming. So if you tone that down a lot more in Amazing Eternals, I don't think I would mind it as much. But I just look at the overall space that they're working in, which is the team-based shooter space. And I see the response that Paladins got. I see the response of the player base of Paragon, which I don't think is doing super hot, and I see that this is going to completely backfire for them because I don't think anyone really wants this type of system in a competitive shooter like this is. I mean, even with Lawbreakers, I didn't mind its gunplay or anything like that. I thought that was completely sound. I thought its progression was sound, all that. So that was there. I just thought that they screwed up by going buy to play with what's the other game? Battleborn. I thought they screwed up by basically being very clunky and buggy at launch, and then, of course, launching their free-to-play model as a free trial, which is this terrible marketing. But besides that, all those shooters I've enjoyed. I enjoyed Battleborn. I enjoyed Lawbreakers when it was in open beta. I would play it if it was free-to-play right now. But with Amazing Eternals, even though it is going to be free-to-play, because of that card game system, and also with Paragon, that's the wall that I just can't get through. Yep. Is the fact that I will have to get all those cards in order to get the best setup for my character. And if I just bought all those cards, it'd be very quick. But because I don't want to, play a card game within my shooter, it's just a huge wall for me.
And here's the second biggest problem with that system beyond RNG and monetization. And I talked about this, and I mentioned it just a few minutes ago. Lack of information.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Do I have all
Exactly.
the cards? What cards am I missing? Do I have half the cards? Do I have 10% of the cards? In Paladins, you can at least go into that loadout and see the ones you do and don't have when you're making your loadout. I have no earthly idea how many cards of bristles I have, what percentage, which ones I'm missing, what the ones I don't have, if I don't have some, can even do. I don't have a
And you can
clue.
purchase them outright too. That's the thing too. So
Yeah,
And don't
you
run
can just directly buy the ones you don't have.
Don't run into exactly what we just talked about Paragon with. Give me the ability to create specific cards.
Yes.
If it's always just RNG, we're gonna have a problem. Learn from some of these others. So let's give this a final thumbs up or thumbs down. Zach, I think we'll go with you first because I think I know exactly where you're going based on the feedback you've given so far. Yep, I kind of figured. It's hard for me to give this one a thumbs down, Troy. I want to give it a thumbs up because at its core, I did have fun playing it. I might be giving a bit too much credit for Digital Extremes because I think the monetization system of this game is going to hurt it the way it is built right now. It's going to hurt it, and it doesn't help that it's going into a crowded space like hero shooters with things like Blizzard in that space. It's not going to make it an easy, smooth sailing for Digital Extremes. It's going to be an uphill battle here. And by the way, don't let anybody tell you this is a board game. For God's sakes.
totally not.
The board game
God.
board game part of it is just your progression tree. That's it.
Yep.
You gain experience and it moves your piece to the next unlock of whatever.
It's the same
type
thing
of
as watching a bar go across the
Yeah.
bottom as you level up. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this a very, very shaky thumbs up right now, just because I think there's the basis of something fun that I do enjoy there. There are aspects of it that I don't like, but I have confidence in Digital Extremes to kind of sort it out. On that same note, Troy, I don't know if this will be around all that long. The game space in this genre is just way too crowded, and you got to pick up some people, and I think this is like niche of a niche of a niche when you look at everything this game does. So I'm going to give it a really, really shaky thumbs up for right now, and 90% of that upturn is because DE's behind it, not because of the game itself right now. Not right now. Go ahead, Troy, finish it up.
I'm going to give it a very enthusiastic thumbs up. I've been giving a lot of thumbs in the middle here lately for the videos I've been doing. I'm giving this one a big thumbs up, and that's not trying to misunderstand me saying, oh, this is the perfect game. It's got a long ways to go, and that may not be my final judgment 3-6 months from now or whatever. But as of right now, the RNG didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of it, but usually that's my, like, when we talk about CCGs and stuff, that's my thing, right? I'm like, I hate it. It didn't bother me as much because in the game, that card system is actually fun when you're playing and have cards to play with. So big enthusiastic thumbs up right now. It's fun. You should try it and help lead the development in the right direction. And maybe this game can really, really nail it and find a spot in the market because it does have some things to offer. I love the retro pulp sci-fi theme.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
Well, interesting. We kind of covered the entire spectrum on this one. So let us know what you guys and gals think in the comments below. We're going to slide over and do the weekly bums because, God, when you put the three of us together, we just don't shut the hell up. We're running late this week.
Yep.
It's all right. I always get, on the 45, 50-minute episodes, I always get comments and emails. Why aren't these longer? It's already 50 fucking minutes. We'll go with mine first. I'm going to give an A-bomb to Cloud Pirates closing. Now, I know I briefly mentioned Cloud Pirates from my.com closing last week, but I did take a look at it again, and I am sad to see it go, but I'm not surprised. I'm also gonna make a prediction here. I'm expecting more of these types of games to close over the next 6 months or so, too. These almost World of Warships, World of Tanks type games, regardless of genre and art style. Armored Warfare, also from my.com. I'm looking at you in particular. Go ahead, Zach.
I'm gonna give a dub bomb to Mirage Arcane Warfare. It was free for 24 hours on Steam, and I checked recently, and on Steam it still said it was free. So I don't know if they extended that or what, but a really fun game. It's from the developers of Chivalry, which was that sort of medieval, chaotic type title where it's very skill based in terms of where you aim your sword and all that, and all the different techniques you use in order to, kill the particular target or, siege like a castle or an objective. And I really liked Chivalry, and I really liked Mirage Arcane Warfare. Once I got the hang of it, it took like one game. And once I got the classes that I liked and the ability loadouts that I liked, it was just so much blood on the battlefield. I was having a blast. And I can't wait to dive back into it today and fill some more maps with blood, because blood and glory shall be mine.
Oh, God. Go ahead, Troy.
I want to give a dub bomb to all the volunteers from across the country who have driven thousands of miles and dozens of hours to go help relieve the victims of those storms. I've been without water for a few hours now, and my life is a living hell. So I couldn't even imagine what those folks down there are going through. So to all you who volunteer your time for free and selflessly just drive down there blind into whatever it is that you're driving into, just to take care of people you'll never know. If you stayed at home, it wouldn't affect you at all. Just a big thank you just from someone who's not affected and doesn't have the time to do that myself. You guys are amazing. It's not everywhere in the world you can go and find folks who would drive thousands of miles and dozens of hours to go do that for others.
I think both Zach and I echo your sentiment there. Well said,
Yep.
sir. From the viewers, Nintendo says, dub bomb to Destiny. I'm having so much fun with Destiny, too. The game looks great, plays great, runs great. The optimization was my biggest problem, and with the open beta, I saw the awesome port they did on it. A-bomb to Bungo for never learning. Destiny 2 is still not running on dedicated servers, but peer-to-peer connection, which already resulted in DDoSing attacks and hacks in Destiny, and they still did not learn it, and now on the PC version using the system, it'll be even easier to get the IP of someone. Aside from peer-to-peer, the thing that made me cancel my pre-order is aim assist on PC. I think I put a comment in here from another viewer that might be pointed at Zach for that exact reason. No matter what anyone out there says, it either has to go or the majority of the PC community will simply ditch the game and probably wait for Anthem. And before anyone cries, you can emulate a controller with software and hardware on PC to make the game think you're using your mouse and computer is a your mouse and computer is a controller. Go ahead, Zach.
Curse says that comfortable bit was probably a mistranslation. There's no distinction in Russian between convenient and comfortable. We have only one word that means both/either. So it's a common mistake for unprofessional translators and people who rely on Google Translator too much.
Curse, thank you for clearing that up. That was a comment Curse made on last week's show where we were kind of confused by the word comfortable in the use that Curse used. Convenient makes infinitely more sense. Thank you so much. And I could definitely see where the error would have come from there. Go ahead, Troy.
Hellsworth, the bomb to players. Everyone should play the games they want, the way they want. And this is why free-to-play for me is a great thing and not something to shy or frown upon. A-bomb to nitpicking. I know we need to do it, but sometimes I just lay back and start thinking we're all just idiots because we have no idea how much work goes behind the scenes and we're talking a free-to-play.
I agree. I agree, Hellsworth. It's all about games. Although I like nitpicking sometimes. It just gets the bad juju out.
We don't nitpick. We don't have a job.
Wilfredo Rivera says, A-bomb to my.com. So many opportunities with titles and games, and yet my.com just shoots itself in the foot over and over again. Such a waste. And it's hard not to agree with that. Like, you want to go, oh, okay, come on, they had a bad title here, but Skyforge isn't exactly, banging people's doors down. Revelation Online, okay, that might be doing okay right now. Cloud Pirates is going away. I think Armored Warfare isn't much longer for this world. And they all have my.com in common. I mean, there you go. Go ahead, Zach.
Cyberpunk Girl says, Dear Mr. M, you are right. Let's talk about games, 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 games.
Games, games, games. Go ahead, Troy.
Pixelated Donkey. A-bomb to Zach for playing shooters on PC with a controller.
There it
That's
is.
your aim assist. Sorry for being brutal, but that crap ruined shooters on PC. See Call of Duty.
Zach, would you like to reply there?
I mean, I replied to him already.
I know. That's why I asked if you wanted to here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it as much of an issue as everyone else does, especially considering GTA 5 has a huge population and their aim assist is literally an aimbot, where the aim assist in Destiny 2 is nowhere near that extreme, so...
Some people chiming in on our Dauntless conversation last week. Squeezy says, what I understand about Dauntless cosmetics is that they may have badass cosmetic armor at the cash shop, but Behemoth's armor are unique for each type. A super spiky gear crafted from a behemoth proves that you farmed that monster, and on the cash shop you would have something similar to holiday outfits, i.e. a bikini or a mankini. I am gonna rock in Dauntless the mankini, man. Just swinging an axe in the mankini. Go.
It won't be the only thing you're swinging.
Yeah. Touche. Go ahead, Zach. Or is it Troy's turn? Whose turn is it? It's Zach's. Go ahead.
I think it's mine. I can't tell if it's Blue or Aeon or Blue Rayon or whatever, but Blue Rayon says, oh my gosh, listening to you guys go on about how they can't put badass armor in the cash shop was annoying. They could put other types of gear that doesn't come from the game world, like the real world or something. You got on Zach for using the word awesome, but you keep using the word badass. Just think of outfits that are not badass, but people still would want to wear, or hats, those sell.
And I think we would have gone into that a little more if the game had a glamour type system. It does not, at least not right now. I could totally see where you're talking about. Zach, you and I talked about this too. I personally don't care. I just think when you make silly statements, all you can wear is armor right now was the whole point. So, yeah, you're probably right, Blue. Go ahead, Troy, finish it up.
Virgin FJ, can you please make a Dreadnought quick look video? That's a fun spaceship that feels like Warships game.
There is a Dreadnought first look video on the MMO Bomb channel already. It's been there for quite some time. Check it out. Question of the week last week. What's the most you've ever spent on an actual Founders Pack? Not random items in a cash shop, but an actual Founders Pack. What game and why? Troy, what's yours?
Oh, man. Probably $20, I think, is the most I've ever spent on a Founders Pack. Anytime something's around $20 and it's something I want, I'll buy it. But I don't know that I've ever went like just wallet deep into a Founders Pack before.
Zach?
60, only because covering games allowed me to dodge the $100 plus bullets that would have hit me. Like Arcade, for example. I got that one for free, so I didn't have to spend $150, which is what I would have done, and that would have been terrible. So.
Yeah, by the nature of our job, we're lucky enough that we usually get these kind of packs thrown at us, and more often than not, I always disclose this on First Look videos and when we're talking about it on the cast, more often than not, the production companies behind them toss us the most expensive one. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's entirely up to them. We don't ask for a particular pack. If they just say, hey, you want one for a review, we say yes, and they send us whatever pack they want. As far as me, I spent $100 on the EverQuest Landmark one, and I played it once. Japan, shut up. I probably...
What a sound financial decision you made, sir.
I hate both of you. I probably spent more, but that's the one that if I spent one like that was 120 or 150, which I'm not throwing out of the realm of possibility. I may have talked about it on this show. It's the $100 Landmark one that stings me the most because I played exactly once. Japan's Freak says 0. I hate Founders Packs. Go ahead, Zach.
Ellsworth says, question of the week. I never bought a Founders Pack. I have this cut off, 1 second. Plenty of AAAs and always supported my free-to-play games whenever I felt I should with the amounts that I could, and I always leave games that made me pay for gated content. My SSD HDD space is very expensive for me to have frustration wear in it.
Amen. Go ahead, Troy.
Yep.
Wilfredo Rivera. I have only ever purchased one Founders Pack, and that was for Black Desert Online. $39.99 Founders Pack, because I had my reservations and I thought with my wallet. However, I am glad that I did buy the particular Founders Pack because it allowed me to see things that I hoped would change, and so far, barring one incident with monetization, hasn't really disappointed me.
Nice. Nice. Excel Kobayashi says, does Kickstarter count? I backed Hex for $120 because I was so ready to be done with Magic the Gathering Online. Just got announcements today on Magic the Gathering Arena. Stay tuned to MMO Bomb for some news on that one. I've also pre-ordered every deluxe edition of Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2 back before everybody started calling a deluxe edition pre-order a Founders Pack. Yeah, Guild Wars 2, they gave those to me, so I didn't have to pay for those.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Zach.
Jason Mark Laban says, the most I probably spent is 20 USD on a Founders Pack in the game Swordsman.
Wow.
Just was looking for a different change of pace for the game of Wuxia MMO, but after a debacle in their cash shop, I left. Wasn't a loss, though. Still had fun while I played. That's the most important part.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see that one, Swordsman. That's we do giveaways with them pretty often, but there's usually not a lot of news ever. Go ahead, Troy.
The house always wins. The most money I ever spent on a Founders Pack had to be the $150 I plunked down on the Rift Ultimate Nightmare Edition pack for their Nightmare Tide expansion. Wasn't really playing Rift at the time. I had a character at level 30-something and got bored with it, but I couldn't pass up this pack as it had in it one of the most awesome mounts ever made in an MMO, the Land Shark. Yes, a shark that you can ride that can travel in both water and earth. In other words, the ultimate predator. I love how he's just like, yes, the shark. Let me talk about it for a minute. It's awesome. Monthly budget be damned. This was something I had to own, so I bought the pack, played the hell out of Rift for a month or two, then eventually got bored and left the game. Looking back on it now, though, I have to be honest and say that I regret nothing. Kudos to Triumph for creating such a mount of magnificent beauty, and an A-bomb to them for everything they've done since then. So essentially, this dude paid $150 for a mount. Yep. Hey, if you enjoyed it, it's your money, bro, or sis. I hope you loved it.
That's great. That's a fantastic response. Carlos Alejandro says, the most I've spent on Founder Packs is $29.99. I did it for Atlas Reactor. Well, it's because you had to, right? Because then it was free, then it was buy to play, then it was a trial, then it was free. No, I'm kidding. Mostly because I played the shit out of it during alpha testing, and I knew exactly what the game would be like. Kind of. We all saw all that BS that went on with it during its release. I don't regret it. I still play it almost every day. And I spent $19.99 on Heroes Song, Paladins, Blasphemous, Wild West Online. Heroes Song, I kind of drank the Kool-Aid. It wasn't bad, though. Played it way more than I thought I would. Got refunded when they stopped development. Wild West Online, I love the old spaghetti western, so I got an immediate hard-on at the idea of the game. I just giggled like a fucking 14-year-old. How embarrassing is that?
Hordo, he said Hordo.
How freaking embarrassing is that? But mostly because I was drunk and said, fuck it. Hopefully it turns out good. Blasphemous, I'm a fan of Castlevania, and even though I've only seen pictures and GIFs of the game, it looks pretty good. Plus, I've played the previous game released by the same small company, so I more or less know they'll deliver, and they're not scumbags. Go ahead, finish it up, Zach.
Hadrex Sky Shadow says, for Founders Packs, nothing. I'm not only a cheap bastard, I'm also a very patient man, and I don't get why I should pay to play a broken, unfinished game, and after it goes free to play. I get a sticker or some shit to remind me of the money I wasted just to play it faster, and I see all the latency, bugs, and server problems like it's a fucking museum, and if you have a good reason, I'd like to hear it.
Preach it, brother. Preach it.
You're not going to get a good reason out of us. Question of the week next week. WildStar released their housing update now, and WildStar's had, I thought, really cool housing for a very long time now, but they made their communities finally, Troy, so you can, walk around a neighborhood type deal. And I thought it was really cool, but it got me thinking, what does WildStar have to do to earn a visit from you to check the game out? I'm like, there's so much going on right there that I'm just amazed that it's doing as poorly as it is. So I want to know, what does WildStar have to do to earn a visit from you to come and check out the game again? If there's nothing that Carbine Studios can do now, why? What about the game just absolutely turned you away, even despite all the changes to grinding and attuning and stuff like that they've made since launch? So let us know in the comments below. Don't forget your weekly bombs. D-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad, or if you've got questions or comments for the panel here, put it down below in the comments, and maybe we'll read it on next week's show. Until next week, Troy, where can everybody find you?
Twitch.tv/noobfridge for all the video games.
Yeah. Zach.
Or you can find me on Twitter @ZachSharps for all the random tweets.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can find me on Twitter at magicman1, MAGICKMANN1 for all the non-PvP content you could want. While you're there, follow at MMOBomb for all the tweets, news, giveaways, videos, and more. Everybody, it's a rough world out there right now. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.